What's up, it's your boy Hobo Drobo, and today we're going over a heater stadium match where the suspicious bushes are back for round 2. So let's get right into what I feel like is a pretty fair matchup. Very similar levels, we both have level 10 spells, level 8 Barisads, and although he's using the normal mage tower, he's actually able to get a lot of value out of it with this strategy, so I'm definitely going to highlight that when the time comes. I'll be using my normal Archmage deck here, and I'll also be using the Necromancer deck that I was using a couple days ago in Onslaught, so if you want to check out both of those decks, I'll have them linked in the description. Otherwise, let's hop into this match. And so what I've realized as an Archmage player over time is that you have to be very careful with your teleports. You want to get them up fast, but you don't necessarily want to buy them right away. And so what I like to do is I like to wait until round 4 or 5, or until I really need it desperately. That way I'm not feeding gold to my opponent. However, if I can send something like the golems or like those boosters to the other side, it's not giving them extra gold, but you just have to be very careful that you're teleporting the golems and not other troops that do give gold. And then if you do give them an advantage and they're using something like Arcane where they can just put out a crazy amount of damage, then there's basically nothing you can do by rounds 5 or 6 when the boss ends up coming your way. So that's basically my approach for this map. I want to get those artillery up as fast as possible so I can do max damage without needing the dissipate to teleport troops. But by rounds 4 and 5, you'll see that I'm selling towers, I'm adjusting where my towers are, and I have to be very careful because he ends up sending those suspicious bushes, and they catch me off guard because I'm not expecting as many as he sends to actually come. And it's pretty crazy. You'll see they swarm my map really fast, and I have to be very careful with how I'm using my spells. And you can see they also chose the Flying Golems booster, which is very annoying because with that Mage Tower, there's a very specific upgrade that you can get called Enchantment. And shout out to the King here because I was not expecting this ability to be this strong, where it creates magic shields around the troops on your side. And so with those Flying Golems, I have those Mage Towers up specifically to counter those right away. But a little bit later on, when he gets that Mage Tower up and they have magic shields, then all of a sudden I have nothing to do with those golems. Even the musketeers can't put out a lot of damage, and I have to be very careful with where I'm prioritizing all of my spells to make sure that I'm getting maximum damage from everything on my board. And this gold advantage in this early round is actually going to matter quite a lot because I'm going to end up selling a lot of these towers and I have to put in new ones based on the bushes that he sends because I'm not expecting them. And so even though it's not a lot of gold, it does give me that breathing room to feel like at least I'm not behind on damage too much when I have to sell those towers. And while it's nice to not have to deal with a booster like the Dragon or the Thunderbird, especially when you're using a dragon like Barisad, and that'll become very apparent in my last match that I'm going to show you guys, I was able to counter an Eiskalt with the Dragon very easily. And while I did get lucky that I was able to upgrade it, it's still just those little things where if you know what booster counters your opponent, just keep getting it if you keep getting it. And so I like that my opponent here, the King, ended up picking the bushes because I feel like it was definitely one of the harder boosters for me to counter, especially on this map where the setup is very difficult in the first place. I want to have those Archmages at the bottom, I want to have some artilleries, and I don't really feel comfortable putting down Barbarians or Barracks in almost any place because I need to get maximum damage from those like range towers and the mage towers. And so I do end up having to sell one of the Archmages to put the Barbarians down in order to just stop the bushes. And that's a really bad feeling, especially when he gets that mage tower up and now all of a sudden I'm getting a lot of these troops that have high armor, high magic resistance armor, and there's almost nothing I can do to stop them. But we're going to continue to upgrade that Troll Zerker because I figured if I can at least take out the bushes, then he's going to have to deal with so much more HP on his side that I'll at least get the gold advantage, and that'll give me again more breathing room to be able to sell towers and replace them if I need to. And now we approach round 4, and this is a good time to talk about this map because while you would think that while it's just like one long path, very nice to deal with, you know, your towers get a lot of value in the spots that they are in, Ironhide also knows that, and they're going to show no mercy on this round 4, sending an entire Uruk-hai army to your way. And then on top of all the boosters you have to deal with, it's a very unexpected switch from round 3 to round 4. So now on top of that, he's got an army of bushes coming my way. And I know they're called ambushers, but you know, I gotta continue that Fortnite meme going. And so now you're gonna see I swapped that Archmage for those Barbarians, and that's very important for getting all of those bushes out and exposing the bandits for who they really are. And I'm sure those bandits could have found some friends. They don't have to be out here hiding in bushes, but I won't judge them. They have a mission and they're going to stick to it, and that's to make me lose this game. But by the end of round 4, we're looking good, and I actually end up selling those barbarians again to buy the Archmage, and that's going to be really important because I want to make sure that even if I do deal with those bushes, now I have to deal with all those tanky troops coming down, and I have to get the Archmage up again. And so I am losing a lot of gold by swapping those towers back and forth, but for insurance reasons, I feel like it's needed in this map a lot. And so while the king is hanging on here quite nicely, I see that his Barasat is low and I buy the sniper shots to hopefully take him out, but his Barasat barely survives with a sliver of health. And so while that wouldn't have been the end-all be-all of this match, it would have been nice to take his Barasat off, especially during the end of the round where you're going to want to get that initial value when those next waves are coming out. And so now we're going to beef up that Troll Zerker again because we want to get as much HP on his side as possible and hopefully get a little bit more of a gold advantage moving into round 6. But now this is where the king is going to start getting that mage tower up, getting that enchantment spell, and making it almost impossible for me to deal with the high HP troops, on top of all those ambushers in the beginning. So you'll see I put in a Hall of Fame masterclass of using my spells very carefully when it comes to stopping bushers in different tracks. And then on top of that, I'm able to pull out an insane clutch with the Dissipate. You know me, I've been saying I've been waiting for that Dissipate and I haven't gotten it yet, and we're already in round 5, and now you'll see I'm able to get a lot of gold from not buying that Dissipate because I'm killing everything on my side, and that's what a lot of Archmage players have been talking about recently. But you'll see, when it matters most, I pull out that Dissipate, and I wouldn't have won without it. And so I'm forced to buy those barbarians at the bottom there, because if I don't, the ambushers are just going to run right through it. And there's like 15 to 20 of them, then they just keep coming. So now I'm using my spells effectively, although you can see that enchantment spell now is over that ogre. And even though I have a mage tower there to deal with that high HP, since it's magic resistant, there's nothing I can do. And so now I'm really panicking here. I swap the barbarians to an artillery to hopefully get some more damage, although they're just chugging through, and it's looking very grim for me here. And now I have to go deep in my bag and adapt to the situation. I sell the artillery, and I buy an Archmage in hopes to get that Dissipate for those troops at the end there, although I don't have enough, so I have to sell my other Archmage, and I have to end up selling other towers, including that Musketeer, which they froze, and look how close it was! It was so close, except Barasat very much clutches up and gets that roar off to barely be able to get me enough time to buy the Dissipate and get those troops sent to the other side. I've never had a bigger clutch than that. It was actually crazy in the moment. I almost dropped my phone. But with that amazing clutch came a lot of negative things, and that includes wasting all of my money on that one Dissipate upgrade. So now my board looks like complete trash moving into this boss round, and I don't know what I was going to do here. I figured, okay, at least I won that round. You know, that was a cool clip. But if anything, I was like, maybe I can hold on and stall it out. And so that's what our plan is here. You know me, as long as you can survive until that boss round, there's always hope to win, even if you're down 1-3. And you can see my video from yesterday for a good example on that. But moving in, this boss is very annoying because he's basically a bootleg hog rider. And I also have to deal with the bushes again. So now you'll see I have to use these spells early on, make sure that I'm using that choke point initially to get those ambushers down. That way I'm not going to die to them, because as long as I can get those ambushers, I have a feeling that maybe I can pull out, right? Because I have enough stalling spells to be able to stall out the boss compared to my opponent, and even though it's going through a lot faster than what his is right now, I'm not too worried about it because he only has stun. So with lightning, with icy zone, and with stun, there is enough for me to be able to stall the boss out, even if I have to let him go through that initial area very fast. And that plan actually ends up working quite nicely here. You can see we stopped the ambushers, we've gotten most of those other troops dealt with, other than those ogres that have those magic shields. Very annoying, but I'm figuring I can stall them out and dissipate them to the other side if I really need to. You need to have dissipates in those last few rounds, because at that point the gold doesn't matter too much. You should be able to have your artilleries up or anything else for your max DPS. And at this point it's just all about over swarming your enemy. And so that's what I'm able to do here. We're able to stop the boss as well. And so since he has so many troops he has to deal with on top of the boss, it doesn't even matter when it comes to the stalling game, because he just can't stop everything else going through. So shout out to the king here for pulling out a very similar move with the mage tower, using that enchantment spell in rounds 5 and 6 to catch me off guard. It was really smart, and it was really cool to see somebody utilize that tower in a way that we haven't seen before. But with that being said, I'm able to get 4 stars, and I'm able to get my next epic chest for the hunt for Eiskalt. So, as you guys know, I haven't gotten Eiskalt or Ashbite yet, although I am hunting for them in chests, and so hopefully one day we'll be able to get them. Damn. My bad, y'all. I really thought that was the one. And apparently you guys want more of my dumbassery on a day-to-day basis, so I'll do my best to deliver, and let's hop in a match with Yoni here in Onslaught. This match really is Archmage versus Necromancer. However, I really like to showcase this one because we were both spamming those ranger hideouts, and maybe he saw my Release the Wolves video because he goes hard focusing those wolves, and you'll see that in those later rounds. But for this first round, Yoni actually does something that I'm not expecting, and that's picking the golems over the dragon. And so, I guess what he was thinking here is that Allura is actually a lot better for taking out the dragon compared to the golems, and so he ends up taking this round on me because I'm not able to deal with them. However, I'm not too worried because I figured if I can get another nice booster to go along with the dragon, like a Broodmother, it's not going to be a problem, and so then that's what we do moving forward. I was contemplating between the Shamans and the Broodmother there, even though it was very quick, and that's because the Shaman is really good at taking out Allura, although combining the Broodmother with the dragon is just such a deadly combo that he can't ignore, and so my goal here is actually to get a Frost Giant, which may be unexpected, but you know, it's a little bit different because this map, you know, you have a lot of strong things going on that left lane on my opponent's side, that the Frost Giant will kind of linger, and it'll make it so that while he's dealing with that dragon and the Broodmother, the Frost Giant will just be behind it, and I'll probably be able to get away with winning in those time matches, because as you can see here, he does a really good job of making sure that he's getting everything down very fast. And so I'm contemplating going for the Broodmother or the dragon here, and the reason why I power up the Broodmother is because that's usually the first thing he has to deal with, so I figured if he's hacking away at the Broodmother, the dragon will be right behind it, making sure that it's getting some fireballs on the Allura, and so I'm not too prioritized on getting that dragon's health up over the Broodmother. Although he does a nice job of separating the dragon from the Broodmother, so it doesn't really end up becoming a problem. However, I figure in the later rounds, it probably will be a lot more difficult for him to deal with. He also ends up sending the Goblin Balloons, and I don't mind that from him, but the thing with the Goblin Balloons is that you really need to get those leveled up to like tier 3 or tier 4, kind of like the Warmadillos or like the Dragon Bonds. If you're not focusing only them as a booster, they're not really powerful, but vice versa, if you are only focusing them, they're very strong by themselves, especially if you're playing something like an Eiskalt player or a Barasad player. All of those sneaky ground troops that go by really fast are really difficult for dragons to deal with, and so that's why people actually prefer using something like the Reinforcements as a spell if they're having a hard time dealing with those boosters. But now you can see we get that Frost Giant up, and another reason the Frost Giant is really good here is because he's focusing those Archer Towers, and the Archer Towers are nice for dealing with the Broodmother and the Dragon, but it's nothing when it comes to that Frost Giant, and so if anything it's going to buy me a lot of time. And so I'm also going to buy that Glacial Druid Freeze Tower ability, because he's prioritizing upgrading the towers he has up over buying more, and that's going to get a lot more value out of that ability alone. And now he finally does put up an Archmage, and now I'm a little bit worried because I figured, okay, he's going to start dissipating things to my side. However, his setup just wasn't effective enough in the beginning for him to really take advantage of the Archmage, and I just don't think it was like a very smart strategy from the beginning to go with only Archer Towers. You really do need to get at least one Archmage up from the beginning, just in case you have something like these Frost Giants come at you unexpectedly. I'm pretty sure you can dissipate the Frost Giants, and so that would have helped him out a lot here. But for what he's working with, he's doing pretty good. He is putting decent pressure on me as well. He's going to get more of those Verdant Dog upgrades going, and so by these later rounds, the Verdant Dogs are going to give me a lot more trouble than they have so far. Although, since that choke point is very strong on this map, the Verdant Dogs don't get as much value because there's a lot of opportunities to be able to stun them, or freeze them, or just take them out with a big spell. Especially if you can get some other troops clumped up with them. So I wasn't really prioritizing the Verdant Dogs on this map. Instead, I thought the Frost Giants were good because they are slow and they aren't really easily taken advantage of in those choke points. And so at this point, I'm feeling good about this match. I'm not too worried about my defense, even though there's like a whole pack of wolves headed my way, and he's dealing with a lot on his side as well. That dragon is going to get a lot of value moving through there. His Allure is going to have to be forced to micro in the back, and he will take it out, but his Allure just isn't going to get enough value on everything else coming through because he has to deal with that dragon, that he's going to get overwhelmed, and overall there's just not much that his towers can do. Even with the Glacial Druid slowing stuff down in that choke point, it's just not enough. What is nice about the Verdant Dogs, though, is that he is able to buy a lot of time by constantly sending them my way, and then at least he's not going to lose this round on a time battle, right? So the Verdant Dogs come out, I'm able to deal with them, although it's also giving him enough time to be able to get extra damage on all the troops that I sent his way. And so, good job by him by recognizing that and making sure that he was at least giving himself enough time to survive until the boss round. And so now I'm going to show no mercy, sending another powered up dragon his way on the boss round, and hopefully as long as we can stall this stuff out, I'm pretty sure there's no way he's going to be able to deal with this dragon, or at least that's what I was thinking as this round was going on, because his Allura barely scrapped by in that last round killing that dragon, and it would have gotten through if he didn't micro the Allura that way. So if anything, he has to micro the Allura there, and then the dragon's probably going to take out the Allura, which will give me a huge advantage in being able to stall the boss, as well as all the troops coming through, as long as I can stop those Verdant Dogs from pulling off a sneaky win. And so that stun right there sealed the deal, made sure all those dogs didn't get through. His Allura goes down like I was expecting, and she's not going to be able to come back fast enough before the dragon crosses through. So GG, Yoni. Awesome Onslaught match. Let's look at one more. You know, the title's called Hunting Eiskalt, so we may as well actually take out an Eiskalt in this video. Even though it means hunting Eiskalt for myself, I figured this was a good add-on. And I'm not going to go too deep into this match. I'll show the first and final round because that's all that really matters here. You'll see that I got a dragon on round 1, and like I was saying before, the dragon is really good for taking out other dragons. And so if you see your opponent has an Eiskalt or a Barasad, you almost want to get that dragon every single time, just because you can combo it with other things like the Broodmother or Golems, making it impossible for the dragons to get that AoE value, which is where they really shine. Fallen was able to come out with a nice round win here though, by sending me a lot of annoying boosters like golems and stuff that I had to sink a lot of damage into, so nice job, especially considered what you were probably given. And so for those of you who are staying until the end of these Drobo videos, I'm going to spit some nice knowledge right here, and that's that you always want to save gold if you have a level 3 booster. So the dragon there costs 220 gold. I believe it's always 220 gold, though I think I've seen some be 240. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong with that. But every time I have a level 3 booster, I'm saving at least like 250 gold just to be sure. And then that allows me to get a crazy strong booster moving their way, especially when it's something like a dragon that completely counters his Eiskalt. So I really want to give a well played to Fallen here because there was not much he could do against that dragon. However, I don't really think he needs the Rangers hideout here. And I think that if he had swapped that tower with something like the Royal Archers or the Musketeers that can get a lot more damage off, this strategy would have been better overall. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you got something out of it. Otherwise, good luck in your next battles, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.